The title, The Raft of Medusa, together with the painting's epic scale and heroic pathos, makes one think of a classic tragedy, painted by Theodore Géricault at the age of 28. This picture is not only one of the earliest romantic demonstration pictures, but also one of the most important masterpieces of the 19th century. In this monumental composition measuring 5 meters on 7, Géricault was not immortalizing a drama of classical antiquity, but a contemporary event of great topical interest. In June 1816, the French government sent a small naval convoy to Senegal. On board the Medusa and 3 sister ships were 400 men. 40 miles off the coast of what is now Mauritania, the Medusa, under the inexperienced Captain Deschemaret, ran aground. When all attempts to refloat the ship failed, a raft was constructed from masts and planking. On it, the shipwrecked sailors attempted to reach safety. Many, however, found themselves waist-deep in water, and one of the escort vessels took the raft in tow. But it was not long before the rope was cut, leaving the 150 shipwrecked sailors at the mercy of the waves. There followed 13 traumatic days, during which storm, hunger, mutiny, sanity, and cannibalism brought havoc on the raft. When the Argus discovered the wreck on the 17th of July 1860, the crew were presented with a fearful sight. 15 wasted, cadaverous figures lay among decaying corpses drying in the sun. When Theodore Géricault returned to Paris after a year in Rome, the Medusa affair was on everyone's lips. On every social gathering, from bars to ballrooms, people were discussing the various aspects of the shipwreck. 2 of the survivors, the ship's doctor, Henry Savigny, and the engineer Alexandre Correa, had just written a detailed account of the incident. In this book, published shortly afterwards in English and German, Géricault finally found a suitable subject for a modern historical painting, from which he had hoped to match the success he had earlier achieved with his light cavalry officer at the Salon of 1812 when he was only 21, and for which he has been rewarded the gold medal. Géricault deliberated a long time over which particular episode he should concentrate upon. Preliminary sketches reveal he fought initially on the soldiers' mutiny against the sailors, which he depicted in a dramatic crowd scene in the manner of Michelangelo. However, he abandoned the idea of the soldiers' mutiny, and in the further sketches explored the moment of rescue, when after 14 terrible days and nights, The Argus was first sighted on the horizon, only to disappear again without trace. Géricault began painting in the autumn of 1818. He made contact with the two eyewitnesses, Savigny and Correa, not only so he could paint their portraits, but also to learn more about the details of the disaster. Another survivor from the Medusa, a carpenter, made Géricault a model for the raft. Géricault rented a large studio and had his head shaved so not to be distracted by social invitations, and began working fanatically. He frequently visited the nearby hospital to observe and study various stages of death and disease. He arranged with the hospital administration to receive directly in his studio amputated limbs. Which he painted in a series of oil paintings, shocking in their brutal realism. Indeed, Géricault's realistic treatment of the macabre was one reason why the final painting created such a horror. The models for the portraits of the shipwrecked sailors, which he first painted separately, were not only Correa, Savigny, and the carpenter, who were actually present, but also friends and pupils. In the final group, the man at the mast is Savigny, and Correa appears with the cloth tied on his head. The figure with the outstretched arm is Louis Alexis Yamaha, the assistant of Géricault. Even a young 20-year-old painter, Eugène Delacroix, made a cameo in Géricault's painting. Still a pupil of Géricault's former teacher, Francesco Goya, he will go on to paint 12 years later the iconic Liberty Leading the People. The sky and the sea were painted last, after the artist visited Le Havre in order to study the effects of the morning light on the sea. And after 8 months of feverish work, Géricault saw his finished painting hanging on the Pietre Italien, where the entries for the salon were submitted. It struck him that the pyramid-shaped group of figures lacked a proper base. Without a moment's hesitation, he set up his easel, took out his painting material, asked his pupil Barthigny to model for him, and added not only the naked figure with his head in the water at the bottom right, but also the backward-leaning figure on the left, bringing the number of those who shipwrecked to 20. At the opening of the Salon at the Louvre on August 25, 1819, Jacquot's shipwrecked scene, as the painting was originally titled, caused a sensation, much like a big movie blockbuster of today. Everybody was aware both of the actual event on which the painting was based and also of its political significance. A liberal fraction in France considered the disaster as the result of the captain's incompetence and were using it against the government. The fact that the picture initially hung much too high meant that the intended effect of identifying with the shipwrecked was lost. Indeed, the presentation is unbalanced and melodramatic. The overuse of black pigments diminished the color scheme in the painting and is the main cause of the poor condition it is today. But the sculptural qualities of the muscular figures heighten the drama of the scene. The composition relies on the construction of pyramids upon pyramids. Much like Rubens' picture, The Rape of the Daughters of Lysippus relies on the construction of circles. The strong perspective drives the observer into the scene, and if we take a step backward, we can see the open dynamic thrust that builds up and culminates in the outstretched arm of the sailor. The raft, tossed by the waves, forms a heaving stage on which the characters are set. On the threshold of a new era, Théodore Géricault combines in this magnificent composition the stylistic features of classicism, romanticism, and realism.